Well, it turned out exactly as I expected. He ruled against us on everything.
Well, folks, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Because today, in F*** Around and Find Out news, former New York mayor and election denier turned coffee-peddling penniless pauper Rudy Giuliani absolutely crumbled in a must-see meltdown outside a New York City courthouse after a federal judge set a January trial date for his $148 million defamation suit. Which is pretty impressive considering he's but one man and already made it well past a quarter of the way to the amount that Fox settled for in their Dominion suit. And the absolute meltdown I have coming up for you in just a second is almost as brutal as what happened in the courtroom. So let's break down the continued downfall of Rudy Giuliani, and I say this with the integrity and truth of the man himself. For every like and subscribe on this video, another dollar gets taken from his dwindling savings.
I have no place I can go take cash out except a little bit that I saved, and it's getting down to almost nothing.
Giuliani erupted in Manhattan court on Tuesday, claiming the judge was unfairly against him. "Every implication you've made is against me," Giuliani, the disbarred former U.S. attorney for the Southern District, shouted at Judge Louis Lehman during a hearing in Manhattan federal court. And while he wasn't done shouting in the courtroom, as we'll see, he also continued that anti-judge sentiment outside the courthouse in the first part of his epic meltdown.
He really doesn't need to have it, because he's going to rule against me. If you were sitting in that courtroom and couldn't figure it out, you're stupid. We've had not one ruling in our favor. His background is serious left-wing Democrat. Yes, he was appointed by Trump, so this is about as left-wing as you get. I knew his father. His father was a great litigator, but left of left of left. This is punishment.
Oh, Rudy, if you want to be left with more than a dime, don't do the damn crime. But I guess proverbs don't work on an 80-year-old man-child because the 80-year-old former New York City mayor threw a temper tantrum after Lehman questioned why Giuliani had not yet turned over the title to his 1980 Mercedes convertible to the two Georgia election workers he defamed after the 2020 presidential election. Yeah, he has to hand over the title to his car to the election workers he defamed, which keep that in mind because it'll come back into play later in the meltdown. Your client is a competent person. He was the U.S. attorney in this district, Lehman said, addressing Giuliani's lawyer. The notion that he can apply for a title certificate, he continued before Giuliani cut him off. "I did apply for it," Giuliani pleaded. "What am I supposed to do? Make it up myself? Your implication that I have not been diligent about this is totally incorrect." Then, the embattled former mayor also accused the judge of unfairly characterizing his claim that he has limited access to assets as him, quote, crying poverty to the court. "I'm not impoverished. Everything I have is tied up," Giuliani claimed. "I don't have a car. I don't have a credit card. I don't have cash."
The reality is, I have no cash. It's all tied up. So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab, I can't do it. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account.
Giuliani also claimed, without providing evidence, that someone had placed what he called a, quote, stop order on his Social Security account. Guess that's what happens when you elect Republicans. And the judge then warned him to not speak again, saying next time he's not going to be permitted to speak and the court will take action. Your client can either represent himself by counsel or appear pro se, the judge added, referring to the legal term for self-representation. He can't do both. And the fiery exchange unfolded after a lawyer for the election workers said that Giuliani turned over the keys to the blue convertible and the luxury car itself, but not the title of the vintage vehicle, which Giuliani claims to have lost track of. Which might be the only thing he was actually telling the truth about. I mean, come on, Judge. The guy can't even keep track of his own limbs, let alone a pink slip. And then earlier in the hearing, Giuliani pouted, cradling his face with his hands after Lehman denied his bid to push back a January 16th trial over whether he can hang on to some of the prized possessions while he appeals a Washington, D.C. trial judgment against him in the defamation case. And some of those prized possessions are Giuliani's Palm Beach, Florida condo and Yankees World Series rings, which he claimed were gifts to his son Andrew that he's been ordered to hand over to the election workers as well. Among Giuliani's arguments for delaying the trial was that he'd like the case to be resolved in time for him to attend President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20th. Which we all know is bullshit. He probably just wants a pardon at this point.
Do you think Mr. Trump can help get you out of this?
Mr. Trump, Mr. Trump doesn't have to help me get out of it. All Mr. Trump has to do is straighten out the legal system.
Mr. Giuliani, is that really your
You'll find out who the real criminals are. I mean, the bringing of this case was a complete abusive process. The $145 million judgment to anyone sensible is ridiculous, obviously punitive, obviously done because I'm a Republican and I was in a Democratic dictatorship, which, by the way, New York is.
But Lehman, reading from his ruling on the bench, said the defendant's social calendar does not constitute good cause to grant the delay, instead saying he'd be open to moving up the trial to January 13th or 14th so that it can finish in time for Giuliani to theoretically attend the event. And all of that led to this cathartic meltdown outside the courthouse directly after.
Well, it turned out exactly as I expected. He ruled against us on everything. Also, the trial he set down for the period of time during President Trump's inauguration, he really doesn't need to have it because he's going to rule against me. If you were sitting in that courtroom and couldn't figure it out, you're stupid. This is punishment. It's punishment for being the one who revealed, first, Joe Biden's 30-year criminality. I'm the one who revealed it, nobody else. He hated me since then. He's been trying to torture me, stop me, take everything away from me since then. Anyone associated with me. Then, of course, the real indignity was, I'm the one who produced the laptop for the New York Post. I love the New York Post, but they have forgotten that. Half the cases I convicted people, and I tried the most significant cases in this courthouse in the 20th century, and prosecuted them and convicted them. And they were like real criminals, organized crime, terrorists, Wall Street, massive crooks who covered $2 billion for the federal government from Milken and Boesky. I prosecuted Nazis. What do they prosecute now? Republicans. Or people like Adams, who criticize Biden, and then they go after him for upgrading his tickets. This case against me is a totally phony case in front of a judge even worse than him. The judge I'm going to have the motion for contempt in has the heaviest record for sentencing J6 people. Nobody sentenced them to jail for long. When she was the chief judge, she told the other judges they weren't given heavy enough sentences. Did I have a fair trial? I didn't have a trial. Half the time she was threatening to throw me in jail, like he is vaguely doing. Meanwhile, he said something that's totally untrue. I'm not worried about Mr. Giuliani having... The reality is, I have no cash. It's all tied up. So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab, I can't do it. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account.
And such is the tragic tale of Rudy Giuliani to this point. So stick around and stay tuned as we update on this story. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoy seeing Rudy Giuliani's downfall. And for Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I'll see you all in the next one.